Topic of this video is in the title. It's on legalizing prostitution, and it begins, as always, with a meme that reads, "Let's be brutally fucking honest. If sex work was so wonderful and so empowering, then women wouldn't need to be trafficked and enslaved in order to meet demand. No one traffics software engineers or accountants." Now, I detect no lies. This is a true statement. Now, you can make an argument that no one traffics. People do pirate software, but they don't actually traffic engineers. And when we have to be very specific when we talk about trafficking. Like, when it comes to tricking someone with a allegedly valid work visa, that's not trafficking. That's something else. It is not on par with the human trafficking that is engaged on a wide scale across the world in terms of human sex trafficking. But it does bring up a valid point as to the libertarian argument, the libertarian argument, is that this is not a big deal, and the answer to it is to legalize prostitution. Because if we legalize it, the government can step in, and it will be a valid economic influencer, and the black market element, the ugly black market element, will just go the way of every other legalized substance or service. And we're going to take a look and see if that is actually true. Does legalizing prostitution lower human trafficking? Let's find out. Now, the case study we're going to be looking at is the infamous Amsterdam phenomenon, who legalized prostitution in their country in the year 2000. This article is from October of 2017, and it reads that at least 1,300 Dutch girls per year trafficked and exploited. Now, this is only involving Dutch girls, specifically. It reads that at least 1,320 underage Dutch girls between the ages of 12 and 17 fall victim to sexual exploitation in the Netherlands each year, a report on human trafficking published on Wednesday showed. That group makes up nearly half of female trafficking victims in the Dutch industry. Now, what that means is that the rest of the trafficking victims are either over the age of 18, or they are women who are not Dutch. Now, victims in the Dutch sex industry. And this is from a study from Corine Detmeijer. I'm going to pronounce that Detmeijer. The National Reporter on Trafficking in Human Beings and Sexual Violence Against Children. Detmeijer said the report contained the first reliable statistics on human trafficking in the Netherlands and the first of their kind in Europe, but was concerned by a decline in cases, indicating that fewer were being reported. A 108-page report compiled both domestic and United Nations figures from 2012 to 2016. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, which cooperated on the report, is encouraging other countries to produce similar data to help create a clearer international picture on the scale of the crimes. The total number of human trafficking victims in the Netherlands is roughly 5 times higher than reported figures indicated, at about 6,250 cases per year, it said, meaning that many victims stay out of sight of authorities and support agencies. Roughly half of about 3,000 cases of sexual exploitation, predominantly women, involve underage girls. The number is high, but what makes these statistics unique is that they show us what specific groups are falling prey to human trafficking. It has exposed our blind spots. In a report published in 2015, the European Commission said there had been over 30,000 victims of human trafficking between 2010 and 2012. Across all EU member states, of which around 1,000 were child victims trafficked for sexual exploitation. Detmeyer said it was known that a relatively high number of women from Central and Eastern Europe were being forced into the sex industry, but the number of underage Dutch girls was surprising. It's actually not that surprising. It's not that surprising at all. And the reason it's not surprising is because of something else I want to show you. We're going to take a quick break at this point. Now, the reason it's not surprising is this meme right here. It says, "Defund the police, how is he supposed to carry all that?" Defund the police, he protests. And the other chap is like, how is he supposed to do all of this work? Now, on the rocks that the policeman here is carrying, it lists gang violence, theft, drug possession, drug dealers, prostitution, homelessness, keeping the peace, domestic violence, and school security. And the big brain take, the real big brain take, is that he's not supposed to carry it all. We're supposed to limit his involvement by having all these other big socialized, big government programs where all he's holding is keep the peace. But you have to ask yourself, what is he keeping the peace from? What is he protecting society from? And what you have to understand is that prostitution in this meme is not the same as is renamed in the bottom half as sex work. They think that by legalizing prostitution that you can get rid of the need to enforce it. That you can actually get rid of the need to even look in the general direction of someone being sold or selling sex. And why is this such a laughable notion? Well, on the face of it, the reason is very simply this. This reasoning is degenerate and gay. There's a simple reason why nearly all of those things are illegal. It's called treat others the way you want to be treated. Society does not legalize drugs, sex work, or tolerate homelessness because we do not wish for ourselves to be addicts, our daughters to be sold for sex, or be without a home. And wouldn't you know, most of those things are attached to the criminal underground and black markets. Why? Because criminals don't give a shit about people. And this is what libertarians do not seem to understand, is that capitalism is not a system of morality. Just because someone is willing to buy and sell to provide a service, and just because you're willing to provide a service, and just because someone else is willing to participate in that service or purchase the benefits of it, does not mean that this is a moral action, or that this is something that society should be afflicted with. And let's make something clear. The reason why cartels and gangs exist is not because, it's illegal. It's to protect their black market. Before drugs, before alcohol, one of the first things that the mob hit were literally clothing trucks. That's the first, people don't know that one of the first rackets ever made wasn't something that was illegal. It was something that people needed to be sold on the cheap. That's what the first racket was for the mob, was clothing, literally clothing. So this idea that if you legalize something that there's going to be no black market for it is absolutely fucking ridiculous. But let's get back to the articles. Now, it says that these figures were remarkable because of the number of reported cases of trafficking had fallen sharply over the past 5 years, from nearly 1,300 to below 1,000 last year. I am concerned about the falling number of reported cases, Detmeyer said. This means that an increasingly larger portion of trafficking of humans is going unreported. Now, this was posted in 2017, in October of 2017. Now, you might say to yourself, perhaps the reason that numbers are going down is because less trafficking is going on, because the experiment is working and the black market is getting smaller. And if you think that, you're a fucking retard. In this article written by The Sun, which was published on the 11th of February in 2018, we have a story that is moving forward. It says the horror of women in the windows. Amsterdam red light district is a front for human trafficking, rape, drug addiction, and brutal beatings. Now a new law is being introduced to make it an offense punishable by up to 4 years in jail for punters, Johns as we call them in the United States, to have sex with a prostitute they know or suspect has been trafficked. If you haven't been to Amsterdam's notorious red light district, there is a good chance you've heard of it. It's laid back, anything goes reputation, attracts millions of visitors every year, many of them boozed up Brits looking for an X-rated adventure. The name comes from the neon lights which highlight the 300 windows where working girls ply their centuries-old trade. The district's narrow streets are filled with sex shops, peep shows, brothels, an elaborate condom shop, a sex museum, and of course, prostitutes in red-lit windows. The vice industry has enjoyed a long tradition of tolerance in the dam, with prostitutes regularly earning more than 350 pounds a day. On the face of it, sex workers in the Dutch capital seem to be treated better than their counterparts anywhere else in the world. They have their own union, police protection, frequent monitoring and testing, and professional standards. Every single fucking thing the libertarians say that prostitutes and sex workers should have. And despite all of this, a new investigation has revealed the city's happy hooker reputation is nothing more than a seedy front. On Sunday, reports told that the truth is far more sordid. The rising numbers of human trafficking trials in the Dutch courts add weight to their claims. Many of the smiling girls have been ferried from Eastern Europe by ruthless and brutal pimps who hand out beatings to those who don't follow their rules. One young woman told the paper, We are being sold just like something in a shop." She revealed how she was transformed from a promising teen into a broken woman, all by the age of 22. After being lured to Europe, she was effectively taken prisoner, then sold on for work in an Amsterdam brothel. The man who brought me to England and then to Holland used me like a piece of meat, she said. When I saw the brothels with all the girls in the windows, I cried. I cried very hard because they looked horrible, and I knew that was what was coming for me. After being told she owed her brutish new boss £27,000 in transport fees, she had to work non-stop to keep him off her back. In exchange for handing over all of her earnings, she was given just £9 a day to buy food and supplies. To make things worse, she was regularly raped by her boss, because why wouldn't he? Now, a new law is being introduced to make it an offense, punishable up to 4 years in jail for punters or Johns, if you're in the United States, to have sex with a prostitute they know or suspect has been trafficked. However, the move has come too late for many girls whose lives have already been destroyed. Many are now hooked on hardcore drugs, the only way for them to get through the misery of their existence, which, surprise, surprise. However, despite the horror stories, those visiting the red light district do not seem to care if the vice girls have been trafficked. Gee, imagine my shock. One British John said, "I assumed one woman was trafficked because of the way it was set up with the big guy standing outside." And according to the working girls who ply their trade in the city, they all fear a British collar. Apparently the British like to piss on and beat their ladies of the night. Dutch MP, I'm not pronouncing that name, told the Mail on Sunday, "We legalized prostitution in year 2000. The idea was it was giving women their freedom and to get rid of the criminality. But we took it away from being linked to freedom, and we linked it to human trafficking. The red light district is a dark place. It's chilling, it's humiliating. It makes me cry. For a long time, we just accepted it. There are tour guides telling naughty and funny stories about the place. But the reality is that it's just commercialized rape." And are you surprised that this is what happened? Now, I need to go back to this because it's very telling, because this is what it comes down to. They have unions. They have police protection. They have frequent monitoring and testing and professional standards. And despite it all, they still have a massive problem with human trafficking and not being able to meet the demand. And why are they not able to meet the demand? Why do they need more people to prostitute themselves in the red light district? Well, let me tell you why. Because human sexuality is a bottomless demand. It is a bottomless demand. There are not enough hookers in the world to satisfy the demand. And if you want any evidence of that, all you have to do is take a tiny look at the effect that pornography has on the brain. And let's be honest, I am the carnal conservative. I know damn well that if you're looking at porn, you're not stopping at the first video. I know you probably didn't stop at the second video. You didn't stop at the third video that you found that caught your attention. And you know what I also know? I also know that the next time you went to go jerk your meat, you weren't happy finding the videos you found the last time around. That same process is no different than trying to fuck a faceless hooker, someone that you're not meant to have any emotional attachment to. This is a bottomless market, and there could not be enough women in the world to satisfy it. The idea that you could legalize prostitution and by all notions even regulate it. The fact that you think that there's not going to still be a black market that sells women for sex is insane. And there's a reason why it's illegal. I'm just going to say it again, just to make sure it's drilled into your head. It does not matter whether prostitution is legal or illegal. The reason we have laws against it is because we don't want our daughters, our mothers, our sisters, to be the ones sold for it. We understand that this is a shit job. We understand that this is a horrible thing to put human beings through. We understand that this is not a healthy thing. We have a very basic ethos to treat each other the way that we would want to be treated. Ergo, if no one wants to be a hooker, if no one's signing up for the job in mass numbers, we don't let it happen. And it's a very simple notion. And there will always be a black market for this shit because it's bottomless. There's always going to be some unsatisfied John with a couple of bucks in his hand. You're never going to be able to have enough women to satisfy that market. And that's one of the reasons why, even though it's legalized and it's regulated, why we're still having Dutch women being trafficked into sex work in Amsterdam, in the red light district. And this is not a moral argument. This is not even an economic argument. This is just the facts about what happens when you legalize prostitution. How does it look to you?